I mocked his high-pitched voice to my friends and it got back to him and he did this. Hello, Reddit. My friends actually suggested I post this because they seem to think it will make me see things more clearly, as they put it. They apparently think I'm being unreasonable or absurd over all this, which I don't agree with one bit. Yes, maybe I was a little wrong, but everything's not entirely my fault here. And it's ridiculous that my husband is ready to throw our whole marriage away over something so small. It would also be helpful if I could get some advice. For a little background, my name is Elaine, and we'll call my husband Vic. We've been married for about 5 years, and up until recently, I thought everything was fine. We've always had a great relationship, or at least I thought we did. He's never been the easiest person to understand because Vic is emotional, extremely emotional. And he's got a lot of little quirks and flaws that honestly I've always found kind of funny. For example, he has this super high-pitched voice, and it's just amusing, you know? I've always thought of it as a harmless thing to laugh about, something that makes him unique. I didn't realize he felt so strongly about it because he's never really mentioned it to me. I mean, sure, he'll say something if I laugh too hard, but I just thought it was him being overly sensitive, as usual. I never even thought he was that bothered by it because he's never really talked about it a lot. My friends think I'm delusional, that it's not just about his voice, and that I've been cruel to him for a while now. But they're exaggerating. Yes, I joke about his voice a lot, but that's because it's funny. My friends laugh at it too. It's not like I'm doing something no one else is. And maybe I poke fun at other things, like his hobbies, his little anxieties, or how he can get so worked up over minor stuff. Who wouldn't? I mean, he gets emotional over the smallest things. Sometimes I'll laugh and call him out for it because honestly, he can be too sensitive. And I just think he needs a bit of a reality check. I know they're going to see this and probably think I'm just trying to cover myself, but I'm being honest here. My friends need to know I'm not lying about any of this or trying to make myself look better. Yes, maybe I've made fun of his hobbies, like when he'll spend hours bird watching or whatever, and I might have belittled his anxieties once or twice. I might have even undermined a few of his accomplishments, but I've always tried to do it in a way that's either playful or genuinely meant to help him. Like I want him to grow tougher skin, to be able to handle things without breaking down over every little challenge. There are other things too. I'll call him overly emotional in arguments, sure, because sometimes he's just too much. I'll admit I've teased him about his physical traits or his need for validation. And yeah, maybe I've used sarcasm when he's tried to be romantic. Like he'll try to do this super cheesy stuff, and it's hard for me not to laugh. I know I might have shamed him in front of others or questioned his decisions publicly, but I've always done it because I thought he could use a little guidance. In the end, I thought I was just keeping things real with him, being supportive in my own way. I didn't think he actually needed to hear constant praise or gentle treatment. I'm not the type to sugarcoat things, and I didn't think he'd take everything so seriously. And like I mentioned, everyone always laughed when I joked about his voice. It wasn't just me. It was all of our friends. They'd laugh right along with me, and Vic would usually chuckle too. So I figured if he was laughing, it meant he was okay with it. I thought it was all harmless fun, and honestly, his laugh made me feel like we were both in on the joke. I mean, isn't that what people do with their partners? Tease each other a little? Sure, he would sometimes bring it up afterward, maybe when we were alone. He'd say things like, I wish you wouldn't joke about that, or ask me, do you really think it's that funny? And yeah, I could tell he was a little serious, but I thought it was just Vic being his usual sensitive self. In my mind, it was one of those quirks that he'd grow out of or maybe laugh about himself one day. I never really stopped to think that it might be something he couldn't just shrug off or ignore. Yeah. It wasn't like I was making jokes that were that bad, right? A lot of couples joke around. Some might even make fun of each other's habits or personality traits. I figured our jokes fell in that same category. I didn't think teasing him about his voice or his sensitivity in general would actually start to hurt him. And honestly, if it were really that big of a deal, wouldn't he have said something more? Spoken up in a way that made it clear? I always thought he'd let me know if it crossed a line. Looking back, maybe there were some moments where he looked genuinely hurt. But I dismissed those looks, told myself he'd be fine, and figured that he'd just let it go. I didn't realize he might be bottling things up or that my words were chipping away at him little by little. After all, it's not like he brought it up often, so I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I've always been a jokester. I don't understand why this one little joke has him so angry. I mean, it's what I do. I make light of things, bring humor into situations. That's just who I am. So this time I was out with some of my friends. We were laughing and joking around, just having a good time. And yeah, his voice popped into my head. It's not like it was pre-planned or anything, it just slipped out. So I made a little comment about how my husband sounded like a chipmunk when he got excited. And we all laughed because, Well, come on, it's true, and it's funny. It was a lighthearted joke, nothing mean-spirited. I didn't think for a second it would hurt him. He wasn't even there. These were my friends, not even his, so I figured it would stay between us, just some casual banter. But apparently one of them must have told him. Now he's furious and giving me this over-the-top silent treatment, acting like I've committed some unforgivable sin. I'm genuinely shocked at his reaction. I never realized he felt so strongly about it, and honestly, it's just bizarre to me. When he confronted me, he acted like I'd crossed this massive line. Like we're talking about destroying our marriage over this, which feels completely out of proportion. I didn't cheat on him, I didn't lie, I didn't do anything underhanded. It was a harmless joke about his voice. That's all. I didn't even think he would care so much because honestly, he's always been a bit sensitive. I get that. But this? Now he's telling people he needs space and saying I've deeply hurt him? It feels so overblown and it's infuriating. And what's worse, my friends are all supporting him. They're acting like I did something horribly wrong. I'm the one who's confused, hurt, and frankly frustrated by this whole thing. I get he's sensitive, but this reaction just seems to be coming from nowhere. And I don't know why he's turning this into a bigger deal than it is. I love him, I really do. But this whole thing just feels like a mountain out of a molehill. I'm just here to figure out how to get him to see that it's not as serious as he's making it out to be. Because honestly, if he can't take a little joke like this, what does that say about us? Update. Hello, Reddit. I'll admit you all have given me a bit of a reality check, even though it was wrapped up in some pretty harsh comments. I'm now realizing that, okay, maybe I'm not entirely blameless here, but it's not like this mess is completely my fault either. Yes, I made a few jokes, but my friends are the ones who went and blabbed to my husband, and they've made everything explode. If it weren't for them spreading things around, maybe none of this would be happening right now. I can't believe something as small as a joke could have snowballed to this level. Things are blowing up so much, and I'm just at a loss. My so-called friends, they have been saying that I'm selfish and even calling me a narcissist. We had this huge blowout the other day, all because we started going through the comments on my original Reddit post. I'll admit, reading some of the comments was hard because people were just being downright mean and unnecessary, so I said it was stupid. But when I voiced that, my friends just piled on saying I was being selfish again. They said that it was classic me, that I'm so caught up in defending myself that I can't see my own behavior for what it is. They're acting like just because people online are calling me out, I'm supposed to just bow down and say, oh, you're right, I'm wrong. Like, really? I don't see how this one joke and my reaction to it have turned into this character assassination, but that's exactly what it feels like now. Honestly, it just spiraled from there. They started listing all these things that apparently make me a narcissist, saying that I'm always making everything about me, that I never really apologize, that I don't understand the impact I have on others. I'm frustrated because I still don't see why this one mistake defines everything about me, and I definitely don't see how that makes me some kind of monster. It just feels like every single thing I say or do now is twisted around, like everyone's waiting to jump on me to prove a point. Now they've all distanced themselves, and some have even outright told me off. It feels like a total betrayal. They clearly weren't real friends if they'd turn on me this easily. I feel like I'm being wronged here. Yes, I see that I made mistakes, but this whole situation is so unfair. I feel abandoned, angry, and completely misunderstood. For starters, let's talk about my current nightmare. My husband Vic kicked me out of the house, and it's like he's on some kind of revenge mission now. He's decided to make my life as miserable as possible and is throwing every punch he can. Financially, he cut me off entirely, knowing full well that I don't have savings to fall back on. And it doesn't end there. He's sabotaging my career too. I had a job that was already tough because it relied on a good reputation, and he's managed to make me look unprofessional and untrustworthy to the point that I lost my job. And if that wasn't enough, he's gone and shared private voice notes I sent him with our friends and family. So now everyone is looking at me like I'm some heartless villain. I mean, can you even imagine that? He's humiliated me, destroyed my reputation, and made it so that even my own family is disappointed in me. They're saying I'm cruel, unkind, and disrespectful. My own family. He's turned them against me and left me feeling completely isolated. To top it all off, the job I lost may not have been high-paying, but it was something I could have relied on now that I've been financially cut off. But he took that away too. And the longer I go without another income source, the closer I am to being flat broke. It feels like he's on this mission to ruin me, and I just don't understand how things could have gotten to this point. I've tried setting the record straight, but no one is willing to listen. My side of things is lost in all the noise he's stirred up. Sure, I get that I'm somewhat at fault, but it feels like Vic is going out of his way to punish me. It's as if he's determined to turn the whole world against me, to make me lose everything. I can't believe this is happening, and I'm completely at a loss about what to do next. Update. Hello, Reddit. Wow, I honestly didn't expect so much cruelty. Seriously, some of you really go all out with your comments, don't you? And like I've said countless times, this situation isn't entirely my fault. You all seem to think I'm the only one to blame, but that's just not true. Sure, I played a part in this, but not the whole part. This wasn't some horrible crime, it was a joke that got a little too far. But it's like everyone is determined to paint me as the worst person alive. For those who keep asking where I'm staying, well, contrary to what you seem to hope, I'm not out on the streets. I'm staying at my parents' house. Not that it's exactly a dream situation, believe me. And yes, I still have bills and rent to worry about, so it's not like I'm in some ideal setup. It's exhausting having to live like this, honestly. Just trying to make it through all this mess is beyond difficult right now. I'm really not doing okay, even though no one seems to care. On top of everything else, I started getting spammed constantly, like emails, texts, even calls from weird numbers. I couldn't understand half of them, and it started to feel like some kind of harassment campaign. I blocked so many numbers, but it kept happening. It was like an endless onslaught. Just one more thing on top of everything else I was going through. The spam was relentless. I was getting bombarded with emails, random calls, and weird messages all day long, to the point where it became impossible to ignore. I'd block a number, only to have two more pop up. It was driving me absolutely insane. Every time my phone rang or I got a notification, my stomach would drop. I'd answer, and it would be some bizarre call or text from a number I didn't recognize, sometimes even in languages I couldn't understand. I'd get weird emails too, spammy, sometimes threatening, sometimes just plain nonsense. It felt like someone was messing with me on purpose. And to think this whole thing started with one stupid joke. Eventually, I had to go through the grueling process of changing my phone number, and even that didn't stop it. I thought maybe it was just some random spam, but when it kept happening after I'd changed numbers, and then even my Gmail, I started thinking it was something more deliberate. It felt like someone wanted me to suffer, wanted me to be hounded by these constant, annoying messages until I broke. I eventually came to the conclusion that someone, probably Vic or maybe one of our friends, had somehow set this whole thing up, or at least encouraged it. It felt like a coordinated attack, honestly. Changing my number was a horrendous process. I had to update everything, from my bank to random accounts that still used my old number, and I kept worrying about who else had my new one. That should have been the end of it, but somehow the spam found its way to me again. It was maddening. I started wondering how they even got the new number, and every time I can't even describe how frustrating it is. It was like one giant punishment, one I couldn't seem to escape, until I changed my number for the third time and then the fourth. When I went to pick up my stuff from our house, well, his house now, I guess, I found out that he'd already thrown everything away. Clothes, personal stuff, things that meant something to me, all gone. Apparently, he'd texted me several times telling me to come and get it all, but I missed them. So he decided to just dump it all. It's honestly heartbreaking to think about all my things just gone. I feel like I've lost so much, and it just keeps piling on. To make things worse, everyone now sees me as this awful, misbehaved person, like I'm some kind of villain. No one is reaching out to help. Friends have distanced themselves. Family members are all giving me these judgmental looks, and it's like I'm completely alone. And if all that weren't enough, I got served. Served. The divorce is official, and now the divorce is official, and now I have to deal with that on top of everything else. It's just one hit after another. The thought of going through a divorce is terrifying, and now I have to navigate all the legal stuff while also trying to pick up the pieces of my life. I mean, is this really how things are supposed to go? One stupid joke about a high-pitched voice and suddenly my entire world is crumbling? I can't believe how quickly everything fell apart. One moment I was laughing and joking with my friends, and the next, I'm being served divorce papers and losing everything. It feels surreal, like I'm living in some kind of twisted nightmare. I didn't cheat. I didn't steal. I just made a joke, for crying out loud. And now the isolation is overwhelming. My so-called friends are acting like they don't even know me anymore. They're rallying behind my husband, almost as if they've forgotten that I'm still a person deserving of kindness. I mean, I understand they want to support him because he's upset, but it just hurts to know that they've turned their backs on me so quickly. It's not like I'm the devil here, and yet that's how I feel. So now I'm stuck trying to figure out how to move on with my life while dealing with the shame and the judgment. Every day is a reminder of how much I've lost. I'm searching for a job, but with my reputation tarnished and my confidence shattered, it's a struggle. I need to find a way to rebuild myself, but it feels impossible when everyone around me thinks I'm the bad guy. Honestly, I feel like I'm in this massive hole, and every time I try to climb out, something else pulls me back down. I never intended for things to get this out of hand, and it's exhausting to try to convince people that I'm not the monster they think I am. I just want a chance to explain myself and to show everyone that I can change, that I can be better. But right now, it feels like no one wants to hear my side of the story. So I'm reaching out to Reddit again because I genuinely need advice. How do I turn this around? How do I fix the mess I've created while everyone around me is so quick to condemn me? I want to save my marriage, but it feels like every step I take only pushes me further away. I don't know what else to do. So yeah, life is pretty terrible right now. And for the people who are cheering about it, congratulations, I guess. But if you're here just to criticize, trust me, I already know how bad things are. I don't need you piling on. Update. Hey Reddit, it's been a while, hasn't it? Honestly, I almost forgot about this post until recently. I was setting up a new Reddit account, and that's when I remembered I already had one. Guess that says a lot about where my head's been lately. Anyway, I've gotten a ton of messages asking for an update, so here I am with one, though it's not exactly the happy resolution I was hoping for. So first of all, the divorce is finalized. It was unbelievably quick, less than an hour in the courtroom. We had no kids, no shared debts, nothing tying us together financially, so it was just done. I didn't qualify for spousal support or anything like that, which hurt. But honestly, the real pain came when I realized this was it, the final reality check. The last line crossed and there was no going back. I had tried everything. Letters, voice messages, even showing up in person. But he wouldn't talk to me. He was completely shut down and unwilling to give me a second chance. And that left me feeling desperate, and still does. I'm still here, wishing I could turn back time and change the way I behaved. I guess I grew up in a family where teasing was just our love language. It was how we showed affection. But I'm realizing now that what I did to my husband wasn't just teasing. I was flat out mocking him. And not just once or twice. I was doing it constantly. I made it seem in my original post like it was no big deal, just harmless jokes. But looking back, I realized I was belittling him, undermining him, and embarrassing him more often than I cared to admit. And yeah, that's something I have to face. After everything, I fell into a pretty bad depression. My family kicked me out after I lost my job. They said they were tired of my complaints and that they couldn't take it anymore. That hurt in a way I can't even describe. They sided with my ex-husband, and the final blow, they even welcome his new girlfriend with open arms. It's like I've been erased. It's so isolating to see people who were supposed to love me take his side, all while leaving me to feel completely abandoned. Since then, I've been doing a lot of self-reflection, and I think that's a huge part of why I'm writing this update. I realize I had a problem with accountability. I always wanted to justify my actions, to say it wasn't all my fault. And in a way, I still feel like it wasn't entirely my fault. I'm not saying I don't take any blame. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I crossed lines I didn't realize were there. But at the same time, I didn't think it was relationship ending bad. Yet here I am paying the price. My current situation is less than ideal, to put it lightly. I'm bouncing from place to place just trying to keep a roof over my head. My career? It's a joke at this point. Any attempt I've made to rebuild my reputation has completely backfired. No one wants to be associated with me, and I can't even explain my side without people looking at me like I'm some kind of villain. Every door I try to open just slams shut in my face. I'm not only without a husband, but without friends too, because none of them seem willing to give me the benefit of the doubt. I don't know, it's just frustrating that I can't even voice my own perspective without being labeled and judged. To make things worse, my ex-husband has moved on, and he seems really serious about his new girlfriend. I'll admit it, it's embarrassing, but I do check up on his social media sometimes. I know I shouldn't, but I can't help it. I'm bitter and jealous, and seeing him happy just drives it home that I'm the one left with nothing. I even check his new girlfriend's profile now and then, and honestly, I can't stand her. I know that sounds petty, but it's true. Yeah. Honestly, I'm at a point where I think moving might be my only option. I mean, what is there left for me here? My reputation? Completely destroyed. No one wants to hire me. Everyone just sees me as this person who tore down her own life. So what am I even doing here? I'm barely holding on. just trying to piece together some funds however I can so I can leave and get a fresh start somewhere new. So here I am just trying to get through each day. I'm financially screwed, my social life is non-existent, I've lost my family's support, and I feel emotionally drained. I feel like I've hit rock bottom, and even though I've done a lot of self-reflection, it hasn't fixed anything. I'm still facing the consequences, and it feels like there's no way out. That's where I am. Everything's a mess, and I honestly don't know what comes next.